Hi, and welcome to our Coffee and Careers vlog with myself and Duff. And in conversation today, we have the lovely Tawnya Renelle, who has her own creative business beyond form creative writing. You're very welcome, Tanya.
Hi, thanks for having me. This is absolutely a treat and wonderful to get to talk to people about what I do, which I really love. So this is great. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm very excited. So what we're going to be discussing today, there's lots of things Tanya could talk to us about, but what we've decided to really focus in on today is this specific question around how to be a freelancer and all the know-how to make it happen. And Tanya has lots of experience in this, which she's going to share with us today. So perhaps you could maybe just introduce yourself to the students, Tanya, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your career journey up to this point and your business beyond form creative writing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I graduated with a doctorate of fine arts in creative writing from University of Glasgow, which feels like a very long time ago now. So November 2020, I finished everything up. I am a creative writer, an experimental writer, and I really have always loved teaching. It's really just been something that has been a passion of mine. I'm really interested in the ways that we can approach creativity, and sort of through, I think, like many people, the pandemic was a really strange world and it was something I had to navigate. And I just kind of happened into teaching a class online for free. And then people started emailing and saying, I'll pay you. And I was sort of taken aback, and I was like, oh, I could get paid to teach a creative writing class online. And it's just blossomed and now grown into Beyond Form Creative Writing, which is my baby, my business. It's a creative hub that's really dedicated to offering a bunch of services. So mentorship, courses, events, publications, and all really specifically dedicated to the art of experimental forms. So writing that really defies genre, defies boundaries, pushes into new exciting spaces. That's what I get to do every day. It's quite exciting.
Fabulous. Well, thank you for the introduction. So we have a few questions here which are quite to the point, which I hope will get lots of really good information that will give students ideas. So why would a student choose to be a freelancer?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think particularly for people in the arts, it's a real natural transition to being a freelancer, right? So anybody who, whether they're doing visual arts or performance art or written work, that's what you do. You're always promoting yourself. You're sort of pushing your work out into the world. But getting to be a freelancer means that you have a lot of control. You get to create a sense of community with, meeting other artists and other collaborators and other folks. You work really hard. But it's a really, seems to me, a great way to showcase whatever your medium is, whatever your craft is. You get a lot of freedoms being a freelancer as well, which for me is one of the best parts of it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't hear you, Anne.
Sorry, I was on mute. I love that word you just used there, Tanya, freedoms. Could you tell me a little bit more about some of the freedoms of being a freelancer?
Yeah, there's the real practical ones, like I get to set my own schedule. I decide when I teach a class, I decide when I have meetings. Unfortunately, there is that tough situation of a lot of it is happening at home, but it is great because I get to decide when and where and how. And I really feel like I get to have a lot of control and not like I'm a control freak, but there's something really nice about being your own boss and getting to imagine in a different way and shape something and really create something. And it really, for me, does feel like an extension of my creative practice. The business is something that is creative. I get to think uniquely about it. I get to think of ideas for what might work for the business. And so all these things feel like just a lot of freedom that I get to have, which is great.
Is it hard work?
It is hard work. Yeah, it can be really isolating to run your own business. It can just, you're working long days, long hours. You really have to love what you're doing. You really have to be passionate about it, because I wake up and some days I spend 10 hours on Beyond Form. So I'm really, I'm grateful because I love books and that's what I do. I talk about books, I read people's books, but it is, it's a labor of love. It's a lot of work. So.
So it's creative, but it is still a business and it is still something that you do to create income. and lifestyle for yourself. So tell us about some of the mistakes that you might have made along the way.
Yeah, I think,
Let us learn from your mistakes.
right. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, I would say I'm always have been someone who just sort of jumps into things. I get really excited and I do those things quickly. And so the biggest mistake I made is that I registered myself as a limited company when I really should have registered myself as a sole trader. It became a whole mess where I had to be contacting HRMC and trying to get rid of the limited company, and they wanted money from me. And I just really kind of did it because I was overzealous. I was just so excited that I was like, I'm going to register today. And that was a big mistake to not have all that knowledge, that I could need. And then another mistake I made, which is one that like I will always tell people now, is start saving money for your taxes. So I am obviously not from this country. I'm an American, I'm an expat, I'm an immigrant, and I really didn't know how much taxes were going to be. And so I filed my taxes and I now owe the HRMC £1,000, and I've had to make a repayment plan. But in the future now I know I should always be saving back some money to like prepare myself for when taxes are due. So those are my two biggest mistakes, but you're going to make them, right? You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn from those mistakes. And that's all part of being a business owner. So.
Yeah, fantastic advice. Thank you. And thinking about, that's very practical. I mean, think about your taxes, think about sole trader as opposed to a limited company. Some of this language might be really off-putting, or it might be a bit frightening for somebody that has never thought about anything like this before. So what are some of the practical things, Tanya, that a student could be doing at this point to help themselves move forward into being a freelancer?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll first say I was really scared at first myself as well. It's not, I think as creatives and in the arts, sometimes we're just not thinking that way. We're really thinking abstractly, and being a business owner or a freelancer really makes you think practically. So for me, the best advice I can give is contact Marion and the student enterprise. University of Glasgow has a built-in system to support and help and guide. I really wouldn't be where I am today without the mentorship and guidance that I got from the student enterprise, and I'm actually still continuing to get. So I'm an alumni. They're still supporting me. They're engaged in my business. They promote me on social media. I know I can ask them a question if I ever have one. And then once you get into it, it's like when you decide, it's best to just start writing your business proposal. And it's okay in the rough draft phase to just get all your ideas out. You can shape it later, like write what do you want your business to do? What are the dreams? What are the goals? How much money do you think you might make? And really get all that sort of out of your system, and then get that help to have somebody shape it into a real practical proposal. Trying to think, there's funding opportunities that can be really great. I was really lucky and fortunate. I got Santander funding twice that really helped support me and helped me get started. But Creative Scotland has funding. There's an Edge competition. And again, student enterprise are the best people to ask about that. They'll really help you through it. And get QuickBooks. I'm a big fan of QuickBooks. It's intimidating at first, but it's actually so user-friendly, and it makes a world of difference when you're just trying to navigate taking care of your finances and your money. And for sole traders who don't make very much money or don't make under a certain amount of money, it's only £4 a month. So it's definitely a good investment in the beginning to get that.
So you've talked quite a lot there about student enterprise and our colleague Marion Anderson, who heads up student enterprise. And you mentioned mentorship, and you mentioned tapping into that enterprise and community. Could you tell us just a little bit more about the communities that you're part of as a result of that?
Yeah, I mean, so because of student enterprise, I was a part of the summer company program, which is amazing, where it's just workshop after workshop for several months where you're learning the sort of nuts and bolts of running a business. And I feel like I'm definitely in a community now with people that I could go back to and ask questions if I need to. I'm also in a community of artists. For me, my business, it's really important that I'm reaching outside of my own genre and working with other artists. I do really think that the way to move forward as creatives is to work with one another, because it is a tough world sometimes, being an artist or being a writer or being a dancer or a performer. And so I really pride myself on my business, at least, really reaching into all the pockets of art, artistry, and trying to help each other out and create a sense of community where we're all figuring out the way we can all help one another, basically.
Mhm. I think that's brilliant advice, Tanya, because the communities that you're part of, because people are more likely to help somebody that they know, not necessarily in a nepotistic kind of way, but in a we're all part of the same community and we're building each other up.
Oh, absolutely. And then you end up in situations that you could just never have predicted. Like, I now know a photographer, and like we're talking about working on a project together. And then I've met someone in the theater world and we're talking about transitioning a book I wrote onto a stage production. And it's like, not just for a sense of like, some people think, oh, I don't want to do this business networking thing. It's
Yeah.
so much less about that. It's actually now about my creative practice, like who I am as an artist gets to be sort of and heightened by these communities I get to talk to and be part of.
Fab. So if we have students in the room, which I am sure there are going to be many students sitting in the room thinking, Tanya, you have sold me on being a freelancer. What is the first step that you would suggest that they take?
The first step for me would be that they should write it down, write down those ideas, get that proposal going, contact Marion in Student Enterprise, and really just get excited, get yourself going with it, make contact, talk to friends and family about it. People will be excited for you. Just get charged up, I guess. It's not very practical advice.
I love it. I love it. And if you, Tanya, this is my last question for you. If you could go back to the start and give yourself one piece of advice, what would you tell yourself?
Yes. Okay. So this is a hard one. And I'm really glad that I can give myself this advice, because I really hope it helps other people. I finished my PhD and I just launched right into this running a business, being a freelancer, being a sole trader. And I really lost sight the last year and a half of I am a writer and I have a creative practice. And so if I could go back then, I would say to myself, you really need to find a balance, because it's so easy when you work from home, you work for yourself, to just work 7 days a week, 8-hour days. And so now I'm really pushing myself to say, oh yes, I have a creative practice. It's not just that I teach, it's not just that I offer these services, but I also want to make art. So find that balance early on, keep that balance for yourself, carve out days to still be a creative person, and really don't lose sight of that, because that is why you even started the business in the first place, is because you're passionate about your art and your practice. So that would be, I wish I had told myself that.
Oh, thank you. What a lovely note to end on. So thank you very, very much to Tawnya Renelle of Beyond Form Creative Writing. Please go and check out her all of her social, and you can connect with her and you can talk and you can ask Tanya questions and you can find out all about the wonderful work that she does. I, for one, am going to try and get along to one of her teaching classes, because they sound really, really interesting. So thank you so much, Tanya.
Oh, thank you so much, Anne. This has been wonderful.